This is my demo of the data pipeline. After you create your Reddit application, you'll receive credentials, including client ID, client secret, and user agent. Once you have that, then you can scrape data with the extract data script. So this interacts directly with the API of Reddit. And you can see here, I'm just doing a data set size of 2 with a subreddit of Ukraine conflict using the PRAW library and extracting headlines, extracting comments, and then writing a subset of the response back to CSV, which then can be fed into the next stage of the pipeline, which is label data. So I'll go ahead and do that now. I'll run the script. It's extracted 2 headlines. The comments take a little bit longer because it's streaming them real time. So we see headlines now, CSV is created, and comments, CSV is created. And as you can see here, the comments need significant data cleaning step done to them. So that will be done in the next stage. So this stage is label data. It leverages the NLTK toolkit and the Vader lexicon. And there is data cleaning stage as well, which is done throughout this rank data function. So first of all, we load the data, then we rank the data, and data cleaning, if we see auto moderator, we continue, we clean the body, we get the polarity scores from the body, and then we combine the columns in the pandas CSV, which are not the body, with the polarity scores and the cleaned body. And then we append that, return it, and then we also do a contain city step where we're looking for any of the top 10 cities in Ukraine, and then labeling that city as such based upon the city that we find. And so the first city we find in a body, then we break and we label it, and that's another column. So the label data stage, so from extremely negative to extremely positive based upon the threshold that we're setting, and we then write the data based upon these columns in this order, and then at that point we have a labeled data set. So we'll go ahead and run this. So it's reading the data sets that we just created. Now we've got a labeled data set for comments and a labeled data set for headlines. So if we want to open this up, we can see we've got, now we've converted this to human readable, created a UTC, we've got ID, subreddit ID, downs, ups, author, total awards, negative, neutral, positive, compound, label, city, and headline. And so that's what we did every day during the project, and we scrape data daily. Reddit is API limited, so it took a significant amount of time. Curated, the data curation steps, and perform sentiment analysis, labeled the data, and we have a data set of around 30,000 records now that's fully labeled based upon our timeline, which is then displayed in our visualization that which you'll see later in the demo. So one important aspect is because the data is streaming and we're receiving these comments, then we have to update as far as getting like the community, because we combine some of the metadata like downs and ups with sentiment analysis to perform, give us additional context about how the community is receiving that headline or comment. And so we want to combine those, and in order to do that, we have to, because when we're streaming comments and we're scraping those off the Reddit API, they're not going to have any ups initially. So we have to have another stage of the data pipeline where we go and update the data set. And so we looked at the very end, once we pulled all of our records over our did our daily extracts, we went and updated the data set with this one that says labeled comments updated. And that gave us the number of ups and some other metrics, downs, and total rewards received, and the link ID to be able to join that back to the headline that it was made from. And that's the demo of the data pipeline. Thank you.
So this is Mountain Group's dashboard regarding sentiment analysis on r/Ukrainian conflict. So what we have in our dashboard is we've split it into 3 stories. The first story regarding overall sentiment is the net sentiment over time. Over here, we have our sentiment for both the headlines and the comments of the posts that we see on the Ukrainian conflict. And the axes that we have are regarding the net composite Vader score. So in blue, we have the headlines, and in red, we have the comments, and we can see over time how the sentiment changes according to some events. So per se, if there is a victory for Ukraine, maybe we would see an increase in the total amount of positive sentiment that we see. And so in our dashboard, which is fully interactive, we could hover over the values to see the corresponding date and then the net composite Vader score corresponding to that. The next story we want to tell is the sentiment by the top cities across Ukraine. And so here we have a map, and the radius of the circle is the actual volume of posts we see regarding that city or include the city title, and the color is the corresponding sentiment regarding it. So over here on November 16th, we could see the sentiment and the volume of posts regarding some of our cities. So here we see that Kyiv has a very large number of posts regarding it, and the mean sentiment of it is generally negative. Here in Odessa, we actually have a rather large volume of posts, and the sentiment is actually more positive. If we were to change the dates, we could see some correlations and some trends of the posts across different cities. So regardless, it seems as if Kyiv is one of the larger of the volumes, but we can see some news across some of these similar cities of Ukraine. The last story we want to talk about is the sentiment by posts. So here on the left, we have the top posts by date. We have the headline and the corresponding upvotes. The downvotes are going to be 0 because the values of the downvotes are actually composited with the upvotes. So here we can see a headline. If we click on the headline, we'll actually have our thread data be updated. In instances where we cannot query the comments according to that post, we will have a value of no comments found and a blank scatter plot. If we were to select, say, a post like this that has a lot of comments found, we could see some of the sentiment on this y-axis against some of the upvotes that is corresponding to that particular comment. If we go ahead and hover over that value, we can see the full comment text and then the corresponding upvotes of it. If we go to the value over here, we could see the net sentiment of it, and again, the abbreviated part of the comments. In this case, we can sort by both upvotes, which is the default, or the compound net composite Vader score. And again, we can change this across different dates to see different types of values and different sentiments of different posts. Finally, with each of the posts that we select, we have the net thread sentiment, which shows how much percentage of the comments are net positive, net negative, and net neutral, and then what's the mean sentiment. So if we change the post, we can see different types of mean sentiments and the distribution of that as well. And then for QA's sake, as we see with 15, our data is limited between November 16th to December 5th. So selecting a value before November 16th will have an empty table. And then if you pick a corresponding value afterwards, it will again be populated.
The presentation is about emotions, sentiment analysis. We use pandas for the data frames. We imported on NRC lexicon libraries for the sentiment analysis, and we use Plotly that Express for creating the pictures. We first read the previously curated data that we already have about the headlines. We read through it as our each headlines to figure out how each headline sentiment looks like, emotions look like. Then we also go over and look at overall content in the headline column, and also create a overall sentiment analysis for all the days that we have been running and creating the data for. So we go here, as you can see, the first is we read through the data. Second is we create the headline list, and then we actually just run the raw emotion scores on all of them, and we actually merge it to the original data frames data, and then we also do the merge here does that one, and then we also go ahead and do the headline over the raw emotions on all of the headlines. And then finally we created diagrams out of these pie and a bar show bar for the overall headlines. The way to run this is just to run these our emotion.py program, and it will run through it. It'll first run through all the data that we have collected, create a merged data frame and go through one headline at a time. So you can see it's one headline at a time. It provides you all the emotions. There are 10 different emotions. I know this is showing only a few, but and then we'll also calculate the overall sentiment analysis. So here you can see negative, fear, anger, trust are obviously in on the top portion, and if you look overall, the negative sentiment overpowers the positive one. There's still some positive one, so that would be the next thing to do in this research, would be to see maybe instead of just looking at some specific words within those headlines, now we probably look at the phrase and see if we can get a better result out of it. And that's the overall research on emotional analysis around Ukrainian conflict. Thank you.